There's just so much.
You're listening to a Mamamia podcast.
Mamamia acknowledges the traditional owners of land and waters that this podcast is recorded on.
If you're missing your weekly Out Loud routine over the break, we wanted to let you know that we are still dropping episodes for Mamamia subscribers. So you can get full access to Out Loud, including the back catalogue of over 150 subscriber-only episodes. Subscribe to Mamamia via the link in the episode description.
Hello, Out Louders. It's Holly Wainwright here. Look, Jessie, Mia and I are currently on our summer break and I am busy writing, trying to race to a book deadline and spend as much time with my kids in the sunshine as I can. I hope you are having a wonderful summer wherever you are. While we are off, we thought that we would revisit some of our favourite conversations and topics from 2023. Maybe you missed them, maybe you'd like to relive them too. And so we are playing some of them through our feed throughout the summer. We hope that you enjoy this best of episode of Mamamia Out Loud. We'll see you in February.
Mamamia Out Loud! I did a personality test. I love doing tests that tell me what I already know about myself. And the latest one that's doing the rounds is about click or clash. And this is based on the idea of, you know, when you meet someone and you immediately think, well, we've hit it off just so well, or oh, they're just not my kind of vibe, this person. There's this theory that's been developed by Dr. Ali Walker. She's a connection scientist and author of Click or Clash, a book that looks at how by knowing our connection types, we can transform our relationships. And on this week's episode of Fill My Cup, a podcast that we do, it's hosted by Eora Potter, that is about sort of self-care. She spoke to this author about first impressions and why we might click with some people instantly and clash with others. Here's a little bit of what Dr. Walker said about the click or clash personality test.
I've just written this book called Click or Clash, and it's got all this research in it about how we relate to each other. And I think that because we don't know the science, because we didn't know much about why we react to certain people as we do, what we tend to do is we make up really simple stories about what's going on. And we say things like, oh, we didn't like each other, or it was awkward, or that person was rude. And then we kind of leave it at that. And in our minds, we sort of say to each other, that's it, we're not going to go further in that connection. But what my research shows is that actually we click with people who match or mirror our needs in belonging, and we clash with people, or we don't get on with people who don't mirror or match our needs. So it really doesn't have much to do with a personality necessarily. It's got to do with what we go out into the world asking for and whether someone can provide it for us.
I met someone recently who I have clashed with and I haven't been able to articulate why. And it's not even a clash. I just am not warming to them. They're not warming to me. On paper, I can't explain it. But this would totally make sense. There is something going on here about our intensity or our ability to read each other that is just not
She
working.
says that there are two key elements of every human connection. The first is frequency and the second is intensity. So frequency is exactly what it sounds like. It's simply how much human connection that you like in your life. So, you know, we've heard of the ideas of introverts and extroverts, and frequency is actually related to that. So everyone is either high, mid or low frequency. And Dr. Walker says that you can determine which of the three you are with a simple question. You ready? If you were designing your perfect weekend, would you want to be around other people for A, more than 50% of the time, B, around 50% of the time, C, less than 50% of the time?
Oh,
Less.
just less, about 40-ish.
I'd go 30.
Okay,
30%.
I'm probably 50, mid or low frequency. And she says that the problem is that we often stop there. Once we understand our own frequency needs and the frequency behaviour in others, we think that we've cracked the code. But she said that we could actually be overlooking connections and potential relationships because we don't understand the intensity component of human connection. Here's what she had to say about that.
So people sort of think about how much do you want to text? How much do you want to speak on the phone? How much do you want to hang out? And that's where we stop with human connection. It's just, do you like as much as me? But there's this really other important element that's been overlooked up to now, and that's called intensity. Intensity is how you bond and how you feel comfortable connecting with someone else. So it's what type of connection you like.
I see.
So you'll be really shocked to hear that I am high intensity, high frequency.
You are.
And that means that I'm called a sunlight connector. And it says I'm a visionary with great potential to inspire others. Your challenge is to overcome the intensity and power of your mind to convert your intensity into light for others.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Holly, are you? I'm quite high intensity and low frequency. What are you?
High intensity. I'm like -1 intensity. Yeah.
Doesn't that mean that you quite like a bit of small talk, I think?
I'm apparently a shapeshifter, which apparently is a good thing, which doesn't sound like a good thing, but it says I'm a universal human connector, able to adapt to the dynamics of any group or relationship. Now, that is true. Not that I don't mean I'm able to adapt, blah, 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 but I think that's true. I go into a new situation, I look at it, and I will very often change how I am and how I behave and how I speak depending on it, you know? So it said my challenge is to make sure I don't lose myself in that. So there you go. But it's interesting because, and Mia and I joke about this all the time, but like we get along very well, but it's not a surprise to me that our intensity scores are very mismatched.
So
Because
true.
It's like when we get into a texting discussion, which we do, and regular listeners to Out Loud will know there's a tension that I'm not active enough in the WhatsApp groups. It's often I'm like, oh, I can't, this is too much, too intense, too much. I need to focus on something else. I'll go quiet and retreat. And it's, there you go. It's in action.
But we don't clash. So,
We don't clash.
Or do we clash? Is that actually the secret to our success? That we're not all the same type?
So we clash in that way, but it's a good thing. Like,
Otherwise
I don't know,
we'd
Jessie,
burn out.
explain that to me. Yeah, you get the science.
I think that there is an element of clashing because our frequency and our intensity is different. So in fact, what we want to talk about is different. So if you're a super intense, if you're on the furthest end of like your intensity is high, you want to talk about dying all the time.
Oh, no, I don't want to talk about that.
And you want to talk about really spirituality and big ideas, right? And then the one that's a little bit further down from that is things like politics, world events, ideas. The one that's a little bit down from this, and Mia, this is your favorite, is emotions and how you're feeling about things, but also how other people are feeling about things.
I like all that, but don't you see, this is why I'm a shapeshifter. Clearly, I only like talking about those things in certain situations. There is nothing I hate more than being in a situation with people who I don't know or who I can sense are going to have very different opinions about stuff. And somebody goes, so what about those asylum seekers? Like, that is my least favorite conversation.
Oh, no, that makes me feel alive.
No, I like that. I like to discuss big things with certain groups of people, emotional stuff, personal stuff with certain groups of people, but not with everybody. And that, I guess, is why I'm a shapeshifter.
Mine is apparently that I like to be in the company of others half the time, and then I like to retreat into my inner world. And there was a question about connection with non-human things, basically, which can be like your phone, blah, 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 but also your dog. If you get a lot of satisfaction from that, which I absolutely do. But I have found this mismatch with people in my life where my intensity is to get in and have a discussion about what is the biggest news story of the week. And I've had people I'm very close to say, that's not something I want to talk about. It makes me uncomfortable. I find it useless. And that's not where I get any form of human connection from. And we've had to like pivot on that a little bit. But I suppose if I meet people where their intensity is so low and so like small talky, then maybe that's when I clash with them a little bit because I think they're boring.
Yeah, I wouldn't even call it clash. I'd just say fizz more. But also the frequency is interesting because I've got friendships in which I have to moderate the frequency because for
100%.
me, it's like all day, every day is a good communication rhythm. But then I've got some friends who I'm incredibly close to who might not text me for months. And I've had to understand that frequency, like what I'm comfortable with is not necessarily an indication of quality. of friendship or deepness of friendship. But the question is whose frequency, for example, and whose intensity becomes the default in the relationship, whether it's a romantic relationship or a friendship.
Yeah.
It's so funny because I guess this is why I got the score I got. But as I said, Jessie, I love those conversations with some people, but there are other groups of friends where I would never discuss any of that stuff. So it's yeah, I guess that's why I'm a shapeshifter.
What I really liked about this quiz as well, and we'll link to it in the show notes, is that all the questions, it really makes you think because it's about what you do, but then it asks you the same question, but what you would like to be, like what you would like to do.
Yeah.
So, for example, I'm with people maybe 50% of the time, or I like to be with people all of the time, but am I happy with that or am I not happy with that? Would I prefer to be more satisfied at a lower level of intensity and frequency? And for me, it was mixed. So I'm a sunlight connector, but I want to be a coral connector, which means I want to have a little less intensity and a little less frequency because even I'm too much for me sometimes.
Mamamia Out Loud!
Welcome to Bare Minimum Monday, where work is not the priority. You are. I hated the relationship I had with Mondays, so now I use that day to do a little work, rest, work on creative projects, care for my home, move my body, anything that feels good.
Mia, I was going to tell you that we should introduce Bare Minimum Mondays around here, but I can't be asked. So I thought I'll just explain instead in the laziest way that I can manage what a Bare Minimum Monday is. Now, apparently it's kind of a bit of a trend that started in the US, and it's in the press because a marketing manager from Adelaide called Caitlin Winter got a lot of attention after talking on social media about her experience incorporating this practice into her team. So she says, Bare Minimum Monday is a way for you to ease into the week at your own pace. And maybe it looks like Mondays, everybody always works from home, or for the first 2 hours of Monday, maybe there's no meetings or no Zoom calls. And she said, a lot of people think it means I sit in my PJs all day in front of the TV and do no work. But in reality, it's simply a day when we work from home, don't schedule any meetings, and generally just treat ourselves with a little more space and kindness. The reason I'm laughing is because I'm just
looking at Mia's face. Is that, yeah.
I can't.
And set ourselves up for a little more space and kindness to set up for a productive week ahead. For us, it means not putting pressure on ourselves to get those big projects done.
Write some lists. Dust the desk.
She also said, it means that if you didn't get around to doing your washing on the weekend, you can put the washing on, you can go to the supermarket, take the dog to the vet. All those things you didn't get around to doing on the weekend, you can do on Bare Minimum Mondays.
Apparently, this is going to make us more productive on the other days to ease into the week with a Bare Minimum Monday. So, Mia, can we all just slide slowly into this week, please? What are your thoughts?
Sure. I'm wondering if then your employer gets to just pay you the bare minimum on Mondays.
No, that's not.
No? Because if you're doing maybe 70% of your job.
Full money for the bare minimum.
Like,
is
guys,
how
I just, in all seriousness, on behalf of employers, I'm just like, it seems like everyone's confused about how a job works. Like, you get money to do a thing, not half a thing, not a little bit of the bare minimum of the thing, not quite quitting the thing, not the parts of the thing that you just like doing in the location you want to do it. But you get paid to do a thing. And when you get the job, usually you and your employer agree, this is the money I will give you and this is the thing that you will do. And I just don't understand what's happened to that.
Look, I reckon that we've got to be careful about saying the quiet part out loud. I respect a bare minimum Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
You do not.
You don't talk about it. I feel burnt out, if you're tired, if you're whatever. Sometimes you can go to work and you can go, today I'm not going to do my best. I'm just not. I'm going to show up. I'm going to do what needs to be done and I'm going to leave when the day ends. And that's okay. I probably wouldn't brand it because then people know. And bare minimum.
Like that's when I take my dog to the vet and do my grocery shopping and my washing.
And bare minimum days only work when everyone else isn't having a bare minimum day. If I'm going to have my bare minimum Monday today, I need you guys to carry the load, and that's why I need to hush.
Yeah. And so then maybe someone else will do fuck it Fridays.
Yes, exactly right. So you can have your fuck up Friday, but I had my bare minimum
Or
Monday.
Wellness Wednesday.
Yes, exactly.
I'm also irritated by this, Mia. You'll be happy to hear because I agree. Also, Monday, just jump in on Monday, right? That's the point of Monday. You get in, you start moving. We did a subscriber episode where Mia and I have a bit of argy-bargy about working from home. Bullshit like bare minimum Monday gives working from home a bad name, right? This is what people used to think I'm working from home in inverted commas, meaning, I'm taking my dog to the vet. I'm doing my washing. Maybe I kept the kids home from school today. That is not what we want. Those of us who would like to hold on to the flexibility of working from home because it makes our lives better in many ways, and we think maybe it actually makes us work better in many ways too, do not want our bosses to think that this is what we are doing, because we're not. I'm not. I mean, I might put some washing on maybe on a toilet break in between meetings or when I have got a store, but
just make sure you log it.
I'm working. And the idea that, imagine if you're a nurse and you're like, bare minimum Monday.
Yeah. It's very privileged, isn't it, the idea of bare minimum Mondays? Or an air traffic controller. You know what? I'm just going to phone it in today. Take it easy.
So people stop making it look like working from home is a bludge. And also it seems like a bit of a way to fake a 4-day week. If you don't want to work on Mondays, talk to your employers about it.
Mamamia Out Loud!
Aiden is back, and obviously Big is not around any longer, spoiler. But I want us to take a step back, take a helicopter view at all the men who appeared in the original Sex and the City seasons and decide once and for all who was the worst one. Earlier this month, Vanity Fair ran an article with their own theories. My belief is that your answer says something about your own trauma. I use that term facetiously. And also, I feel like every person you ask has a completely different answer. It's based on your history. It is based on what you saw in that person that others potentially didn't. So here are the rules. Each of us need to pick our worst Sex and the City boyfriend and lay out the reasons why they should be crowned number one worst man. Elfie, you go first, please.
Okay. So I'm going to choose something predictable, which is annoying of me, but I will say that I did deeply consider Justin Theroux's character. I don't know if you remember him. He was the writer.
Yes. Oedipus complex, weird.
Yes.
Yep.
Got very angry at Carrie because he used to squirt early and then he wouldn't talk about it. So he is a strong contender here. But I will have to say that Alexander Petrovsky is abhorrent and obviously the worst character. Holly, there's a reason that they put him at the end. It's so that Big would look redeemable and they could get back together. He's easily the worst. I will say he is awful because he is clearly misogynist to his very core. He treats Carrie, who I don't like anyway, but point aside, he treats Carrie like a little child doll to dress up and have sex with and take around the world with him, but he has no reading on her internal life or her career or her aspirations. She is just an accessory to him. He feeds her little chocolates out of his coat like a 90-year-old man.
But he took her out for dinner at 3 a.m. and they ate oranges or something. I found that very exciting.
Yes, but what? Oh my God. Okay, but she didn't even want to eat what he was eating. He just made her eat it as though she was like a little baby to delight.
Wasn't he the man too that was violent? He actually was violent towards her.
And then at the very end, they do have a fight and he breaks her diamond necklace.
Yes. It is controversial as to whether or not he intended to hit her, but he definitely made contact and slapped her.
Yep.
Also, Miranda hates him.
That was great.
She's the moral compass of the show. She knows. Mm-hmm. And I think that her hatred is the biggest indication that Alexander, he does that thing where he makes her pronounce his name correctly.
As you know, Alexander.
Alexander.
Oh.
Alexander.
Alexander.
Say Alec.
Alec.
Alexander.
Alexander.
Which is why I'm saying it like that, which is annoying of me.
You're worried he's going to get you in trouble.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I think you make
annoying.
a very compelling case. I don't like him either. Holly?
Oh, I do like him. I do like him. I mean, I don't like him. I don't think she should have ended up with him. He was so insecure and annoying, and a lot of Elfie's points are correct. But I did find him quite exciting as a boyfriend. My least favourite man in Sex and the City is not one of Carrie's, it's one of Samantha's. It's Richard Wright. Do you remember him?
In a wildly optimistic gesture, I ordered you a dirty martini. Dirty martini, dirty bastard.
Season 4 made a reappearance in season 6. He was the very fancy hotel magnate who was like a playboy, and he was like the male Samantha, right? Now, the reason that I chose him is in my heart, and you're so right, Jessie, that all of these choices say something about our lives. There is a special place in hell for men who love the chase. Right. And he's the kind of guy who he saw Samantha, who doesn't need him, doesn't really want him, is living an amazing, fulfilled life, just wanted to have sex with him because she found him very exciting. But he's like, no, I need to own that. So he chased and pursued, and he broke her down to the point at which she was like, oh, maybe we're actually in love. And then he just shits all over her.
It's just sex. I love you.
Now your heart's broken too.
And those kind of men, and I know many of them, and my friends have dated many of them, the worst, because it's like they can't stand it when a woman doesn't need them or want them. So they have to make them do that. I know guys who will be, you'll be like, I don't want to date you because I know you're a player, and that's fine. You be over there being a player, not my problem. And they'll be very much, I'm changing. You'll be the one to change me, and all these things. And you go against your instincts, which is what Samantha did. She went against her instincts, her sort of internal compass about what kind of man he was, and went there. And then he exactly reverted to form and shat all over her. And it's an extra humiliation in that. And also, my last thing about Richard Wright, he reappears in episode 6. This episode really spoke to me. She, by then, is with Smith, Jared, the hot model.
I like him.
Yeah. And he is also trying to convince her, although in a very different way, that she is worthy of love and they can have a relationship and all the rest of it. She kind of thinks no. And Richard Wright comes back on the scene, but he's a bit sadder, a bit older, a bit more desperate. And he convinces her to go, well, she decides to go up and have sex with him in a hotel room. And then Smith's waiting for them at the end, and he takes her home. And he's like, you don't have to be that person. And it moved me a lot.
The Richards make us look stupid, and we don't like that. Because everyone's going, well, you knew from the beginning. They told you everything you needed to know about them within the first 5 minutes. But then it is the gaslighting, very overused term, but it is, of just like, the lies that they tell you and the way that they get you on side and the things they say to you in private.
But they always do that thing where they're like, but I set it out from the start. We had our expectations on the table. You can't expect any more of me. I told you I was a dickhead.
Yes, exactly. It compromises all trust in future relationships. But you're both wrong. My answer is burger.
I told you not to go fast.
It wasn't that fast. It just feels fast because you're on the bike.
Bullshit.
No, absolutely, Burger.
Poor Burger.
Burger's just pathetic. He's not
pathetic.
hateful, is he?
Okay, problem with Burger, and I think I have dated a Burger once, and I'm quite traumatized by that. It is because he goes to bed at night not thinking he's a bad man. I think Richard goes to bed knowing that he's not great, right? My issue is with men who go to bed thinking they're lovely, great men, and they're victimized by the world and all the women around them, and they lack self-awareness. I think the lacking of self-awareness is one of the most dangerous traits, and that's what he has.
This is brutal, and I love it.
It's like I find nothing more off-putting in a relationship than competitiveness. I really find it icky.
Said the most competitive person I know.
Yes, and I will be competitive in all arenas of my life, but if I came home with some sort of success and I felt as though I had to make myself smaller in my home, what that would do to me, I think, well, I've felt it before, and I've felt it with someone who there was only space in that relationship for his successes. And the second that there was any sort of failure on his end, or I came home with exciting news, like it was so icky.
It's so sexist as well,
It's
because
so
you can
sexist.
only love a woman as long as they're like just
below you.
Yeah.
And it's the danger of being with someone who's in sort of exactly the same industry or has similar ambitions.
Because he wrote a book and it didn't do well.
Yes.
And then his second book or something didn't get picked up or something. And then He couldn't tell her,
At the same time that Carrie's career was kind of skyrocketing, and then she gave him some very valid feedback, which every woman in the world agrees with.
About the scrunchie?
About the scrunchie.
Of course.
Which to this day, I'm like, Burger, take on the feedback. And you know what? Your publisher didn't pick you up. Write a better book. And instead, he just sits on the lounge going, oh, it's so hard for me. Like, I just hate those people who just sit there thinking that poor Jack Burger, the world's out to get him.
Chip on shoulder people are particularly annoying. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
dangerous.
but it is hard when you're not doing well and people around you are doing well. Like,
but this
whether
is the
you're
person
male
you're
or
supposed to
female, that
love.
is tricky.
Yes, but when you're in a relationship, and Elfie, you've kind of got this because your partner is in a similar sort of, like, he's a creative as well. I think you've got to feel like a team, and that when the other person is succeeding, you kind of have to lean into that. Otherwise, it gets so toxic. And then the way that he broke up with her is so emotionally immature, and I just hate him. I hate him so passionately.
I can't. Don't hate me.
Post it. I can't.
How do we feel about Aiden?
How many pairs of shoes does one person need?
That is not the way to get out of this alive.
I figure I'm gonna need about half this space.
I figured you've got mentally ill.
What, you never wear most of this stuff?
Yet. I never wear most of this stuff yet. Someday I will.
We don't end up with Aiden. Aiden is settling. We shouldn't settle. There's something about Aiden that doesn't sit right. Again, I think he feels a bit sorry for himself. I think he walks through the world going, oh, women leave me. And it's like, you're just a bit boring, mate.
Yeah.
I just find him a little bit
He's basic.
He is basic.
Truly. Yeah. And then also that thing where they get together again after she's cheated on him. That is just like victimhood at its finest.
Yes.
Like just going back for more.
Have some self-respect.
No,
Honestly.
you people are too harsh. Aiden 2.0, when he cut his hair and he had the bar with Steve, I like that he forgave her. That's my favourite season of Sex and the City, is that one.
I am sorry. And I know that you can't forget what happened, but I hope that you can forgive me. You have to forgive me.
I think Aiden's underrated because everyone held him up next to Big as if Big was this exciting adventure and Aiden was granola, when actually, we talk about this all the time, the person you should be with is the person who makes you feel safe and loved.
Aiden gets his win at the end with his boring woman, I assume.
Yes.
Nobody ever meets her, I don't think. But, you know, he has the baby. He lives the life. Like, that guy will always have a good life. But is it for you? Not necessarily.
No. And you know what? Aiden's not funny. Have you ever heard Aiden say anything funny?
He's not really.
He's not a funny man.
Yeah.
No. All right, you have to tell us what you think out louders. Jump in the Facebook group and tell us whether we're right or wrong about the worst men on the show.
Well, that's it for my very first podcast. I'll get better. So, till next time, I'm Carrie Bradshaw, and this is
That's all we have time for today. And if you're missing us over the summer break, we are still releasing new episodes for subscribers. So if you're interested and want to join us, follow the link in the show notes. And a big thank you to all of our wonderful subscribers. We hope you're having a very happy new year so far.